Good afternoon, students. My name is Marvin Patterson, and I'm your course director for the Negotiation and Conflict Resolution course. This video has become necessary so that I can put into perspective what I expected to get from you when you did your last assignment. That's the assignment with Mr. Lionheart and Mistress Sunflower. I believe it's critical for me to go through this so that you can understand the principles which you need to apply right through the course. It is not only unique to this particular assignment, but you must apply these principles throughout the course and to other assignments so that you will be in a better position to understand what's required of you and to apply the principles that you would have learned in the course. Now, I would not go through the question or the assignment, but I will go through the requirements and what I expected. First of all, the first requirement, before we go there though, let's do some housekeeping. Remember, when you're about to do an assignment or any question for that matter, always revert to your instructions. The instructions are what set the ambit or the parameters in which you do your assignment. So once you stay within those parameters, number one, you stay focused and you do not ramble. There's less likelihood of your answering a question which was not asked. So always revert to your instructions on the assignment, and that will assist you greatly in guiding you in the right direction. Okay, your first requirement was how. How would you solve or resolve the issue between the parties? Alright, let me see the exact wording. Would go like, how would you resolve this conflict? The university focuses or emphasizes a lot critical thinking, and that is what is expected of every student. It is not a course where you come and you regurgitate or repeat or recite what you have learned. You have to learn the principles and then apply them in the assignment. So this question with respect to how you would resolve this conflict is entirely up to you. You look at the scenario, you analyze the facts, and then you decide how you will handle the conflict. You cannot look at this requirement and regurgitate the work that you would have learned in the book. You cannot expect to copy and paste different concepts into one unit as an answer and expect to pass that question. This question, how it is asked, is designed to elicit from you critical thinking. You look at the scenario and you come up with your way of how you will handle conflict within the context of the course. Alright? Many of you did not do that. So you would not have gained many marks simply because you did not follow the instructions as to how you, in particular, as the negotiator for Mr. Sunflower, will resolve that conflict. The next question would have been factors. What factors would you consider in this assignment? What I expected from you was that you would have looked at the assignment. You would have considered what the assignment was all about, what the topic was, what the subject matter was. What is it that I was called upon to negotiate? When you have decided that, that's when you will know what factors to take into account. Now, those factors are all contained in the assignment. There is some leeway for assumption of facts. You can assume some facts. You can include it in the assignment. However, you must state what those facts that you have assumed what they are, so that I can read your answer in relation to those assumed facts. If you assume facts in your mind and it is not expressed in the assignment, I can only mark you based on the facts contained in the assignment, but not your assumed facts. Secondly, so let's take an example of one of the assumed facts that you could have, assumed. The assignment never said that Mr. Lionheart was a poor man. You could have assumed that fact. It means that if he was a poor man, he probably might not have been in a position to pay the 20% he was offering, or he might very well have been in a position only to pay the 20%, which means that he was not in a position to go higher. And that's the reason that he might have been exhibiting a red behavior. Because if he decides to offer more than he can afford, he would find himself in trouble. So had you assumed that fact, that he was poor and could not have afforded more than 20%, then your solutions would take that assumed fact into account. Alright? Right, we are the factors. You have to take, all the factors are contained in the assignment. The age of Mr. Lionheart, the age of Sunflower, how long they were married, when they met, how long they lived together, who got the land, who built the house, how long was the marriage in existence, the reason for the divorce, if at all they're going down that road. They just want to separate now. All these are factors that you take into account. Now, when you know what you're about to do, which is, in this fact scenario, to negotiate a property settlement, then you will know what factors to take into account. And you will only know that as well if you do a little bit of research. In this fact scenario, you need to know what the law is with regard to how properties are settled. Matrimonial property is settled between parties. In that regard, you need to do a little bit of research. Nothing in depth, but at least to put yourself in a position to answer the question based or using the facts as contained in the assignment. Alright? No one addressed the age of the parties, and that can very well be important, because if Mr. Lionheart is 65 years old and he is poor, or he does not appear to have much money, he may not be in a position to take a loan to pay off Sunflower. So it's either he has money to pay Sunflower, or he is poor, he has no money, but he is old. What's the other solution? We'll come to the solutions later. But these are just the factors that I wanted you to bring out when you would have read the instructions. He struggled from day one to build. He got the land at 18 as a gift from his father. He struggled to build. When he met Sunflower, he already had his home. No one addressed adequately what Mr. Lionheart's rights were in this whole scenario. Everyone, as far as I saw, concentrated on Sunflower. Yes, she is your client, you're representing her. But if you know Mr. Lionheart's position, if you know the law in relation to the property and how it's divided, then you will know what sort of proposals to make or to propose so that it becomes attractive to Lionheart. Alright? So those are the factors that I was hoping would come out in the assignment, but not many of you addressed them, and the few of you who did not address them adequately or in depth enough to really bring out all the principles. It was just a fleeting consideration, almost as if the consideration was by mistake. So you need to go a little bit more into detail with stuff like that. Then we go to the next requirement in the assignment, which is solutions. As I said before, once you take the factors into account, then the solutions can very well flow very easily. This assignment does not have any hidden agenda. You look at it, this is a real life situation. This is not fictitious. This is a real life situation. The content, the content is true. So all you need to do is to look at it at face value, and you can come up with so many different solutions. So let's take, for example, let's go to just a few of them. One person, one student, in fact, mentioned in a fleeting manner what I thought would have been one of the more reasonable proposals or solutions. Lionheart has a big piece of land. That's what the assignment says. His father gave him a large piece of land. It's very easy for Lionheart, if he does not have the money, or he does not want to pay much more, or he doesn't want to pay cash. Number one, the land can be subdivided. It can be subdivided in half. It can be subdivided 60-40, 70-30, so that whatever the settlement might be, assuming Mrs. Sunflower accepts 20%, then the land can be cut to represent her 20% interest in that land, so that she gets 20% of the land and Lionheart, he gets 80%. No one addressed that issue apart from one student, if I remember correctly, and he basically just glossed over it. He mentioned it but glossed over it, but did not go into detail. In getting to the solutions in any event, you would have had to correct Lionheart's view in relation to this whole scenario. In other words, he's offering 20%. You need to find out why. Is it that he really believes that Sunflower deserves nothing? Is it that he really believes that her contribution is minuscule compared to his? Does he really believe that he, out of the goodness of his heart, is giving her 20%? If your law, your research, reveals to you that the law says that any matrimonial property should be divided 50-50, Lionheart's aggression or his inclination to be aggressive or display a red behavior, that diminishes, because he will realize that the law is against him. He is not acting on his own out of the goodness of his heart any longer. He's now trying to defend a right, and that is Sunflower's right to 50%, if that is what your research reveals to you. Now, in arriving at the percentage and then trying to negotiate how much she should get, you need to know what her rights are as a spouse who would have gone through all that she went through. She got married very young, I think at the age of 22 when you work it out. All the facts are there for you to work out as well. That's what part of critical thinking is. She was married at 22. Did she have sufficient time to educate herself or to equip herself with a skill so that she can be independent? For all her life, for 35 years, the marriage existed. She was basically dependent in a financial manner, technically, on Lionheart. So stuff like that you take into account. You also have to correct Sunflower's view with respect to her thinking that she is in fact entitled to 60%. And she believes that she's being very generous by offering to accept 50% if Lionheart makes that offer. You have to correct her view as well. And this you can do only when you do the research with respect to what factors the court will take into account in dividing matrimonial property. One other solution, it's negotiation, and sometimes the success of a negotiation does not necessarily depend always upon logical thinking or principles. So for example, some people actually do, and it has been my experience, where offers were made to split the difference. So that, let's say, one party is offering 20% and the other party is offering 30%, there's a difference of 10. So many times negotiation ends when they agree, okay, 10 is the difference, let's split the 10. So we end up at 25 each, right? So that was one solution that could have been considered. Another solution could have been a small amount of cash, or the cash representing 20% if you accept Lionheart's offer, and a small piece of land. Because the bottom line is, Sunflower may very well be looking at securing another piece of land or a property. If she believes that the 20% offer from Lionheart was not sufficient for her to buy a property, she would not be inclined to accept 20%. So your offer representing Sunflower could very well be to make an offer to Lionheart, give us the 20% and a small piece of land. So at least she, instead of using the 20% to purchase land and property, she can actually use that 20% to begin construction on a new house. Anything of that sort. It's really wide. You have all ambit. You have all ambit. It's all yours to explore and to think critically and to come up with solutions. All right. Worst case scenario, you can sell the property and divide the proceeds. But before you even get to selling the property, you have to first of all determine what the interest is. In other words, what's the split? What's the agreement? Is it 20-80? Is it 50-50? 60-40? So that each party will know upfront, I can pay you out, I can buy you out, or I cannot. So that once the property is sold, you know exactly from the sale, from the proceeds of the sale, one party will get 60 and one get 40 or 70-30, whatever the agreement is. Right? I believe two students addressed what I thought was a very, very good point. The parties in this fact scenario would have been married for just around 35 years. And the reason at this point in time that they're deciding to get divorced or to split has everything to do with impatience or patience running out by Mrs. Sunflower, of course, for the addiction of Lionheart. Now, one of the very good solution that the two students came up with would have been, why not save the marriage? And how do you do that? As a negotiator, you can do that as well. How do you save the marriage? If the reason for the divorce has to do with gambling, why not suggest that Lionheart budgets for his gambling problem? In other words, Sunflower can accept, okay, you're my husband, we've been together for 35 years, we have two beautiful children, we've worked hard, we've come this far. I really do not like the gambling problem. Excuse me one sec. Right. Excuse me. I really do not like the gambling problem. But for the sake of the marriage, and for the sake of for the sake of the future, our future, I mean, we're getting down. We will need companionship. Why not? Let's budget $300 a month for your gambling. Don't go over that. All right. This is how much we'll budget for it. And of course, on the other side, Lionheart needs to accept that he has that problem, number one. And number two, he has to accept, or at least make attempts to comply with any suggestion of a budget for gambling. So if he can live within that budget, the marriage can very well be saved, and there's no need for a property settlement. All right? So that's another solution. I had a number of solutions in here in the fact scenario, and I did not really expect students to come up with all. But once you come up with a few of them and you justify them by your reasoning, your analysis, your critical thinking, that is what we are looking for. Not just not just repeating or reciting work from the text as though you're reciting a poem. You've learned the principles in the course, and those principles are to be analyzed and applied to any fact scenario. It's not in every situation that you will employ all of the principles. Sometimes out of, just by way of example, you may have 10 principles in this course, but in any given situation you may only need to employ 2 or 3 or 4, and not necessarily in any particular order as well. So for example, you have principles 1 to 10, you will not need to employ 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4, 5, 6. You can employ 1, 9, 7, 3. It's all up to you. You have to make that judgment call as to what principles you will apply, when you will apply them, and how you will apply them, and in what order you will apply them. Because different negotiators, different opponents, because of their temperament, you will determine, based on the circumstances and the situation, how to apply those principles. All right? Now, the very last requirement in this assignment had to do with identification of negotiation behaviors. There are many of you misinterpreted this, which revealed to me that, let me rephrase that, which makes it appear to me that the required reading was not done. You did not read the book, nor the supplemental readings as recommended for this course. If you did not do that, or maybe you did, but did not properly appreciate what you read, because it's not as easy a book as it might appear to be. The topic of the book, or the title of the book, is a bit misleading, and many of you tend to oversimplify. It's not complicated, but you oversimplify what is required, and then you reduce your responses. Even in the discussion forum, you will see that you reduce your responses to talking off the top of your head, so to speak, right? Without trying as much as possible to apply the principles, and that is what took place in this assignment. When the question was asked to identify the behaviors exhibited by Sunflower and Lionheart, many use emotions, love, harassment, compassion. Those are not negotiators' behaviors. According to the book, you look at red, blue, purple, and then you compare what behavior was exhibited by Lionheart per se, and then you identify which one of those colors most likely he would have been engaged in. The thing is, you can start off as a red, you can end up as a purple. There are various reasons people change. So for example, as we said before, Lionheart might have been exhibiting a red behavior up front because of his misinformation that he was within his right just to be, generous in giving Sunflower 20%, when in fact the law is against him in that regard. When you do your research and you educate Lionheart, listen, you cannot offer 20%. Sunflower is entitled to 50%. If you want a compromise, come with 45% or 40%. Lionheart would then be in a position, whether himself or through his representative, she's entitled to 50. I can very well offer 40, 45. Even if he offers 30, at least it will be an informed decision, number one. And number two, he would not be exhibiting as red a behavior as he was when he thought he was within his rights to refuse bluntly to give Sunflower anything at all. Right? So those are the kinds of stuff that I was looking for, and I trust that you will look at the other assignments with just a normal human, everyday situation through the eyes of a person. I try as much as possible to incorporate real life situations, and these are perfect examples of actual situations. So you will be called upon at any point in time to deal with situations just as this. You cannot go with anything abstract. Some of you indicated I will call the parties together and I will try to do some research into the other negotiator, into Sunflower's background, or into Lionheart's background. Those are relevant not in every situation. In this situation, you will be better served if you know completely, thoroughly, you have a very good grasp of the legal principles involved here, which has to do with property settlement. Once you get that and you understand those principles, regardless of how red Lionheart comes, he will have to resort to blue or purple at some point. You cannot be red. Many times people adopt the red behavior because they believe they are right. Okay? If they are not right, or they find out that they are not right, or it's revealed to them that they are not right, then they tend to soften their positions. So your success, generally speaking, will depend upon your grasp of the issues involved. And based on that, you will then know how to formulate your solutions, how to present your solutions, because presentation and the order in which solutions are presented play a very vital role. So for example, in a case like this, you may very well choose to give solutions which seem to favor Lionheart, so that he can be in a position to say, well, yeah, that suits me, it's in my favor, okay, I can compromise here or there or whatever. But when you come and you give solutions that favor Sunflower, Lionheart may very well adopt the position that you are representing Sunflower and you will look to get anything at my expense. I will be defensive. Alright? So you need to study Lionheart in that regard. It's a psychological analysis as well. You need to get into the mind of the opposing party. So I hope you understand this video, and I hope you will listen to it time and time again, because the principles will be applied right through. I cannot promise, but I will make an attempt to make another video with respect to the other assignment that's coming up, and hopefully I can do that before, so I can guide you in the right direction as to how as to what I expect and how the answers are supposed to come. So I continue to wish you all the best, and I trust that you will continue to enjoy the course and you would enjoy it even more from this point on. Alright, so thank you and have a good day.